Hello and welcome. My name is Clayton Bridges, and today I am going to rant because there's been a lot of stuff that's been pissing me off in video games lately, specifically World of Warcraft. Now, please use your big intelligent brain to synthesize this information to any other video games because it occurs anywhere. And this video is aimed at all gamers, and if you are guilty of this, please stop. Here are the things I have to rant about. Please, gamers, stop doing this. Okay, so here is first on the list, and it is people who complain. By the way, these are almost all complaints. People who complain about no-lifers. There's a lot of people who will say, oh, you know, I can't do well in this video game, or I can never compete, or I can never be rich, or I'll never be able to get all this content done in time, and this game is catering to no-lifer. To break it down, essentially this complaint is complaining that people who spend more time in this video game are more highly rewarded. Now, it should be very, very obvious as to why that's wrong. Now, there's a few universal laws in this universe that we live in, and one of them is what you put in is what you get out. Ideally, more. The law of sowing and reaping, dating back to biblical times, probably even further, since actually the conception of the universe. You get what you put in. In fact, you get much more. If you plant a little strawberry seed in the ground, it's going to grow and possibly sprout into multiple strawberries. So your yield will actually be larger than the singular seed that you have. So how does that relate to video games? Well, people complain that the people who do more in the games, play the games more, have the time to no-life it entirely, believe should not be far more rewarded than those who could play casually. Now, I completely understand where this comes from. It stems from the frustration of not being able to play video games all day, which is completely understandable. A lot of people really hate the fact that they have to work and simply resent the fact that they can't play video games all day. However, you have to realize that in this universe, in this life, you are not going to be rewarded more for less work or less time invested. And that's just a fact. Someone who spends an hour a day in the game should not be as geared as someone who spends 7 hours a day in the game. And that's just the way it is.
It's the way she goes.
However, people continuously complain about it, and that is ridiculous. If you do that or compare that to real life, that's like going to work 30 hours a week and wondering why the guy who works 40 hours a week gets paid more than you do. It's like if you're slacking at your job and someone else gets a promotion and you complain about it, it's stupid. So stop it. I hear this complaint all the time. People just complain, well, you know, I can't compete in Trailblazers because, you know, there's people who don't have jobs right now and they're gonna be able to get way ahead of me. Yeah, as they should. They're playing it more. I'm sorry that you can't be doing that. I understand how that's frustrating, but at the same time, in no just reward system would someone who plays less get more. The next one really gets under my skin because I just simply don't understand how or why people continue to complain about it when it is entirely out of their control. Maybe that's the reason that they do complain about it, because they feel it's something that they can't control. RNG. For those of you who don't know, RNG is basically chance. All it is probability. Basically, RNG stands for random number generation. It's a roll of the dice. Let's say 1 to 75 means no loot, 75 to 100 is you get a piece of gear, you roll the dice, you roll a 66, suck it, no gear for you. Next time you go, you roll a 99, hell yeah, you get some sweet loot. That's how RNG works. That's basically it. So there's sort of two ways of looking at it. Either you have a, let's say, going off RuneScape, you have a 1 in 512 chance of getting it, or you have a 50-50 chance of getting it. Either you do or you don't. So it really depends on the way you look at it, but I will never understand why people continuously complain about this. And here's why it's bad. And again, it roots into the other problems. I believe it stems from not having enough time to play. I believe that people just want this instant gratification of getting gear as soon as possible because they don't have the time to run dungeons or instances or kill a boss over and over and over again until they get it. Well, guess what? The one way to increase your probability of getting something is increasing the amount of times that you are going for that loot. Therefore, you directly have control over how often you will get this, believe it or not. Somehow I've noticed that all of a sudden there is this insane entitlement in World of Warcraft for gear. Literally, I kid you not, I was with a group and someone complained about not getting loot from the first dungeon in the entire expansion that they did. Literally, they just got the option to start running this thing. They went for it and didn't get any loot, which is likely, extremely likely, and they complained. What even is that? It doesn't make any sense for me to complain about something that is completely out of your control and random. You can complain about your group members being terrible, you can complain about maybe your connection to the internet, or the game having issues. Getting unlucky is a silly thing to complain about. And then people build this psychosis around it, where they believe that they are unlucky and they constantly reinforce that. And I genuinely believe that the energies of the universe cater to those thoughts, and then make it even harder for that person to get loot. Listen, you don't necessarily have to believe in the law of attraction, which is essentially what I'm talking about. Your thoughts, your energy, your primary consciousness attracts what you receive in this life. So this is a direct translation or a direct crossover from the other things I talk about on this channel, being personal development. But I believe that your video game life is no separate in energy or in anything than anything you do, whether it's your work, your friendships, your relationships, your overall luck in life. And so I believe by constantly in your mind reinforcing that you are an unlucky individual and you are not entitled to any loot, or that you are never going to get any loot, I believe you are further attracting that to yourself. I have seen it in action and I've tested it for myself. Over the past couple of years, I have taken a more positive and expectant attitudes towards loot and things I can accomplish in video games, and guess what? It's worked wonders. I have not gone super dry. Anytime I have gone dry, I haven't thrown a little fit about it, complained about it, overall sulk or pout about it. I simply say, oh, well, that sucks. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do this again. And let me tell you something else. One huge part of the attitudes of successful people in this world, in any video games, careers, social media, anything you might want to be successful in, when they don't get what they want, guess what? They don't sulk about it, they don't cry about it, they don't complain, they don't go on social media saying,
RNG gods have totally forsaken me.
I have ran this dungeon 1 billion times and I've never gotten it, which usually is almost always exaggerated when people say I've gone this amount dry on whatever. But highly successful people never take that attitude. They simply keep going until they get what they want, period. And if you want something, that's what you have to do. That's how you're gonna get it. You can try for it, and worst case scenario, you'll get unlucky and run out of time to achieve that certain thing. Even so, that may not be the end of the line. For example, I just watched a video of a guy who tried to farm some outfit, some Xmog, couldn't get it, and now he's still able to buy it off the black market auction house. So now that he didn't get it, his challenge is even higher because he has to raise 100,000 gold to buy this piece. He's still going after it. And guess what? That's going to be the guy that gets what he wants. Again, it is random. It's out of your control, and I understand why you might want to complain about it. It's very frustrating to be farming something and simply not getting it. If you then complain and give up, you sealed the deal. You're not getting it. Additionally, when you complain, not only does it not help you, it annoys people around you. No one likes a complainer. No one wants to listen to you bitch about how you're not getting a drop. No one cares. No one is gonna pat you on the back for not getting lucky on this piece of gear. No one cares. So complaining never helps others. It certainly doesn't help you, and it does damage. Makes people not want to listen to you because all you do is bitch about all the things that you weren't lucky enough to get. And I'm going to go ahead and point the finger at RuneScape because that community is far worse about the RNG ever since players even remotely understood what the word RNG means. It's gotten to the point in RuneScape where people will get a rare drop and literally complain about it because it wasn't the drop they wanted. So that RNG chance or that blessing from the RNG gods was wasted on an item they didn't want. So even if people get lucky, they find a way to bitch.
I got 3 whips when I'm going for a dagger. Oh, I only made 6 mil instead of making the item I wanted.
Next, I find this on Alliance and in Battlegrounds in World of Warcraft more than anything, and god damn does it piss me off more than anything, because it is just fucking pathetic. So there's this phenomenon that is happening where Alliance players are convinced that Alliance never wins Battlegrounds, despite what the facts say. You can look it up and find that it is very similar, at worst a 60-40 split in favor of the Horde, but Alliance players always complain about not being able to win Battlegrounds. It gets worse. So in Battlegrounds, for those of you who don't know, generally speaking, in the beginning of a Battleground, after the spawn of each team will sort of clash in the middle, and generally that fight says a lot about what's going to happen for the rest of the BG, supposedly, even though it really doesn't. It really, really, really doesn't. All of these Alliance players will go to the mid, they will get absolutely slain by the Horde, literally a 100-point deficit out of, oh cool, what's this? I got a 207 BOE! You see what I mean? When you have a shitty attitude, you don't get shit like that. That's actually awesome. That's the second BOE I've gotten on this character. Incredibly lucky. And you know why? I celebrate. I don't forsake the goddamn world when I don't get something like that. Watch. When I tell someone in my guild about this, I know exactly what they're gonna say. They're gonna go, "Oh, you're so lucky. What the hell? You always get those drops." I never get those drops. I've never gotten one in WoW ever. Because they're reinforcing that, and that's what they're attracting into their lives. That's just how I believe. And you know what? It works. The quitters. In Battlegrounds, people have this bad habit of losing one battle or getting their ass kicked a little bit, and then they will entirely give up on the entire match, thus completely fucking over their whole team. And it's bullshit. It needs to stop, because that is the reason that Alliance doesn't win Battlegrounds. It's not because Alliance is worse, it's not because Alliance player base is smaller, it's because Alliance have this broken ass mindset that Horde is going to win. And if you go into a battle that you're going to destroy the Horde, and everyone in that BG had that attitude, I can almost guarantee a win. Unless, of course, you know, they have the same attitude and and they're better. Me and my friend like to BG, and I cannot tell you, just in the past week, how many BGs we've gone in, where I kid you not, it's literally 200 versus 300 points out of a 1,600 point total game. So literally we're 2 minutes in this, and people call it. They throw in the towel. They go, "Oh, it's useless. Alliance never wins this one. They're just gonna win." If you're like that, stop queuing for BGs. Please. Because you're a loser, and you're going to make the Alliance lose. If you take the attitude of a winner, that you're going to do everything in your power to turn the tides against the Horde, then you stand a very good chance of winning. I don't know how else you're gonna win. I mean, when people go in the Olympics, they don't go with the attitude, "Oh, Jamaica, you know, has all the advantages for this joint rolling contest, and like, I'm never gonna be able to do it like them or whatever. I'm only from Colorado. You know, these guys have been doing it their whole lives. They don't do that. And you know why? It's because they're champions. So, adopt the attitude of a champion and start acting like it, start believing it, behaving like it, and you know what? You might just win a couple matches. Not only that, but instead of complaining and saying that Horde is going to win every time, how about you work with the 10 to 20 people in your group to become better players all together and develop tactics for the Alliance to win, or for whatever faction you play for, or whatever game you play for. As I say, synthesize this information to other games as well. You know, when you go in with this attitude of loss, you're scuffed before you even begin. And it's just a pathetic way to start any sort of competition. And if that's the way you think, then probably don't be doing PvP or play competitively or do anything like that. Play just a nice casual time, just doing whatever you want. Just don't complain about anything that comes up, please. Alright, now the final thing, I don't know how many games this afflicts. It's something I've noticed and something that's just gonna be progressively more common, I'm assuming, in the future, and that's basically these elitist players. So, in a game like World of Warcraft that's existed since, I think, 2004, we have people playing this game for 16 years. Same with RuneScape, you know, it's been out for even longer than that, so you have players that have been playing literally since the conception of the game. So really there's two different attitudes that these players tend to take. One is being this wise old wizard that's played this game for ages, they can reach down and help people underneath them, provide useful information to other players, and help other people come to their level, which is what a healthy, successful individual does. And then, on the flip side, you have these elitist assholes. Sometimes they'll help other players in a condescending manner, or they will roast players for not doing the most efficient path to doing something. They're not using the best talents, they're not using the best gear set up for them, whatever it may be, or they're doing XYZ wrong, especially in like a heroic instance. Like for example, the other day we had these guys who, and we were doing a heroic, you know, it was a low stakes dungeon, and this guy basically, he offered help, but he did it in a very rude way that essentially started an argument between our group and their group. Basically started off like by saying, "Hey, Disc Priest, are you new?" I think the connotations were misread, because I think he was just asking genuinely for the answer. The thing about giving advice is generally people don't want it and don't accept it and don't want help unless they ask for it. And when you offer it, it generally implies that, hey, I'm watching you do something wrong and I want to fix it, or I want you to fix it, which comes off way rude. And it's like, we're all adults, we're living in a world where we can take accountability for that kind of stuff and be like, oh, my bad, I was doing something wrong that's hurting the group, sorry, let me fix it. And so this is a fine line. However, there are also these elitists that just have these high opinions of things. For example, in trade chat, someone just said that they felt if you had 100,000 gold in World of Warcraft, that you were in the top 1%. To be honest, that's definitely not true. There's no way that's true. And essentially, he got a lot of roasts from other players who were making fun of him for thinking 100,000 gold is a lot of money. Money, especially in these games, is a very subjective thing. Some people get it, some people don't. Some people money comes easily, and some people it does not. I think a lot of it does come down to your attitude towards money. There's all these elitist players who are basically just douchebags about it, like,
oh, this guy thinks 100 grand's a lot.
And so essentially what it is this Mean Girls effect. It was about these girls who were just a bunch of bitches. They put other people down to make themselves feel better about their own insecurities. Anyone that feels the need to lash out against other players and say things like,
Oh, you think that's a lot of money?
all they want to do is raise their esteem and make it seem like they're richer probably than they are. And regardless, it's just a unproductive, scummy, and annoying practice that a lot of people do. And it benefits no one, it makes you sound like a douche, and it puts people down. so stop doing it. You sound like a fucking idiot. Our guild was trying to throw together a raid group, and we were looking for an extra healer, and it was very difficult, and one guy was very candid with us and said that he wants to join, but he's not sure, he's never done the raid, and he was essentially afraid that he would get yelled at for making mistakes. And we had to explain to him, listen, we are a very understanding, mature, and reasonable group. We're not going to roast you for not knowing this fight on the first week. That quite literally happened. This exact boss I'm doing right now, the first day this boss came out, there were people complaining that people didn't understand how to do this hook mechanic. It was the first day of this, not even this dungeon, the whole expansion, and people were pissed off because people didn't immediately know how to do it. So it's part of that kind of elitism that's just disgusting. Like, for mythic dungeons I can kind of understand, but like regular dungeons, like if a tank is a little bit slow or you have literally one wipe, then people immediately throw the towel in and like want to kick you. They're like, oh, this guy's a shit tank, he doesn't know how to tank this. Whereas you can be helpful and a useful, productive player and help them learn this fight, because who knows, maybe it's their first time doing this fight, and you could right then and there train a tank and then go serve other people in other dungeons and help them learn, or run it smoothly with them. So not only are you doing it for your own sake, but you can help other players in the future out by being patient with some of these people that are trying to learn. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand in Mythics, in Mythic Pluses, because there is a time limit, and you probably shouldn't be queuing for Mythic Pluses if you don't know how to do the bosses and stuff. In, like, regular fights or regular whatever, people are extremely punitive and will want to kick people immediately, instead of having the patience of working with a newer player, you know. And sometimes it's really sad, because there's been a couple times where I've been in a dungeon and like the tank is clearly a new player, and I personally feel that it is more or less my duty or worth my time to treat these people with respect and help them learn, because they're new players to the game. A lot of the games I play, RuneScape, World of Warcraft, they need help like that to stay alive, and they need new players. But it's going to be impossible if older, veteran, elitist assholes bully them out of the game. If that's you, if you're an elitist cuck like that, please stop. You're literally harming the game for everyone.